Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Finland once again, and that of course means that we're going to have a look at yet another beer from the latest instalment of the Riku box. So first and foremost, a massive shout out and thank you to Riku Sanaxanaho, my Finnish beer mule. It's thanks to him that you guys get to enjoy all these lovely Finnish reviews here on Rampant Lion Reviews. He always picks me out some really interesting stuff. The beers that we've had from this box so far have been very nice, and we still have a good few to work our way through over the next little while. So I hope that you guys continue to enjoy these ones, and of course a massive kipis and kitos to Riku for making all this possible. But the beer we're going to have a look at today should be quite an interesting one. This is from another brewery that I've never tried anything from before. I actually saw this beer myself when I was over in Finland back in the summer of 2022, and it just kind of caught my eye, but unfortunately I didn't have a checked bag to take it home with me, so Riku very kindly picked up one for me from Alco and shoved it in the box, which was great. But this one is a style that I very much enjoy, but a style we don't get to review all that often on the channel, unfortunately. And I think this is only the second or maybe third example of a Finnish brewed version of this style that we've tried on the channel too, so that should be quite interesting. But needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this one is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to go to Kuopio, which is in the Savo or Savonia region of Finland. It's maybe about a quarter or a third of the way up the country, about 4 or 5 hours north of Helsinki if you drive, something like that, potentially more. But we're going to have a look at my first beer then from Iso-Kallan Panimo. So this one is called Katkeruuden Malja. It comes in at 9% ABV, and this one is a triple. So yeah, when it comes to Belgian style beers, for me, blondes, triples and quadruples are among my favourites, along with a good Flanders red. So yeah, when I saw this one, it just, as I say, just because it was a triple, it caught my eye, and Riku was able to get one of these for me. And always cool to try things from different Finnish breweries that I haven't tried before either. So yeah, let's crack on with the review and see what this one is going to have in store for us. Yeah, so as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Iso-Kallan Panimo. This is the very first time I'm trying one of their beers, as I mentioned, but we will do more in the future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture. Use the geography tagging system, put those into the search bar. If a review beers from the area you search for, they will pop up. Failing that, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You will find this one in the Finnish playlist along with many others, and there are playlists for quite a few different countries in there that you can check out. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then and chat a wee bit about Iso-Kallan Panimo then. So Iso-Kallan Panimo, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Kuopio, and it was originally founded back in 2013 by Marko Pietikainen and Pasi Pelkonen. So Pasi Pelkonen is the brewmaster, and he apparently has a background as a chemical engineer, but the company was founded around the time when craft beer was really just starting to take off in Finland, and back then there were only around 30 breweries. The brewery was originally based in Pielavesi, which is a small municipality in the northern Savonia region. It has only about 4,000 people actually, but you know, there's lots of little places dotted all across Finland. But their aim was to make around 20,000 litres of beer per year, and they also wanted to produce lemonade as well. But after a year, they realised that they just didn't have enough room. So they moved the brewery to Kuopio, which is the largest city in the Savo region, but their lemonade production was left in Pielavesi. I need to see if I can get hold of some of their lemonade actually. That would be quite interesting to try, because there's not many breweries, I think, that also produce lemonade. But they also have a tap room next to this new brewery as well, where you can buy the beers to drink there, or you can take them away with you. That's quite a common thing in Finland these days, that breweries sell their cans and bottles directly from the brewery. And these days they're producing around 100,000 litres of beer per year, and their beers can be found in Alcos across the country as well as supermarkets. But remember, in Finland, the law is that anything I think it's 5% or 4.5%. Anything above this has to actually be sold in the alco stores. But the name Iso-Kallan Panimo comes from a great lake called Iso-Kala, which is formed by 6 smaller lakes, of which Kalajärvi is the biggest. And if you actually look where Kuopio is, it's in this, it's got water pretty much on, I think it's like 3 sides of it actually. So yeah, there's water all around this city. But if you look at this Savo region of Finland, they call Finland the land of 1,000 lakes for a reason. You can see the landscape of Finland is pretty interesting in that sense. But yeah, that is all I can really tell you about Iso-Kallan Panimo for the moment. Like I say, they do a variety of different styles. They just like to try brewing different things, it seems. So yeah, if you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, or you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's crack on then and have a little look at the beer itself. So yeah, I'm not sure when it comes to Katkeruuden Malja. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. I've been told my Finnish pronunciation is actually pretty decent, but I just say it with a little bit of a Swedish sing-songy sort of thing. I guess it maybe means like it's a reference to a Finnish saint or something like that. So yeah, I tried to Google that earlier on, but nothing really came up. But you can see on the bottle there, if I've got the cap the right way up, you can see they have got their own bottle caps. Iso-Kallan Panimo. There you go. Trying to get it to focus on that because, the camera automatically focuses on the face. But yeah, this beer comes in at 9% ABV, like we said. It's hopped with Tettnanger and Sats hops, and it uses Pilsner aromatic and a few Finnish malts with a little bit of sugar in it, from what I'm saying. But yeah, Vene, Kaura and Sokari, which Sokari is obviously just sugar. So yeah, sometimes these beers have a little bit in there. I'm guessing it says that this one contains wheat and oats as well, actually, which is quite interesting. So yeah, I'm reading the Swedish and the English there. That's a bit dumb. But yeah, this beer, I had a little look on Alco, and this one cost just over €5 actually, which when you think about a Finnish beer and a 9% one, that's pretty decent, I have to say. So yeah, €5 is about £4.50, maybe about $5.50 American. So yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. The Katkeruuden Malja Tripel from Iso-Kallan Panimo in Kuopio in Savo in Finland. Let's do this. Hopefully this one behaves itself. Yes. We're getting a wee bit of smoke off it. Yeah. That's the one thing you have to be careful of with these Belgian style beers, is that usually because they use sugar in them, and that's why these beers are always very high in alcohol but still quite light in the mouthfeel. Sometimes because of that, you can get quite large heads on these beers, and sometimes they can explode on you, as I've seen with a few before. So yeah, this one's actually behaved itself quite well. I'm not sure how old the bottle is. It just says it's best before April of 2023. So maybe it's from April of, did it say best before April 23? So that one, it may be bottled in April 22 actually, or maybe 21, who knows. But yeah, Tripel will last for a fair amount of time. But anyway, when you think about this style, it's poured pretty much as you would expect. So before the head starts to disappear on this one, we can say it's poured with about a 3/4 finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head with this one. You've got some nice kind of medium-sized bubbles toward the bottom, but a few fluffier ones and smaller ones up toward the top there. But it looks very, very nice, I have to say. The head on that beer is beautiful. Would I say it's perfect white, or would I say I think it's very slightly cream, but almost perfect white. But 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass there, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head as well. But overall, it does look very, very nice, this one. In terms of its colour, this is actually one of the more amber triples that I can remember having seen. These beers can be very, very light and very blonde, or they can be a little bit more amber like this. But remember, the colour of your beer depends on 1, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. 2, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do, or any adjuncts that you put in, will affect the colour as well. But when it comes to triples, you don't often come across barrel-aged triples and things like that. People tend to prefer barrel-aging quadruples and stuff like that when it comes to Belgian beers anyway. But yeah, you can see there's little tiny particles of sediment just floating around in this one, but it does look pretty good actually. So yeah, nothing particularly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider what style it is, and you can see the head has just receded a little bit to give you a nice kind of foamy layer, which it's retaining pretty well, I have to say. So yeah, the beer does have a little bit of clarity to it, but there is also a little bit of natural haze in there. So yeah, this is quite interesting. So let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. This should be nice. Yeah, I'm going to say straight away, it's been a good while since I've had a triple. I think the last one I tried was actually from Snällsarve Gårdsbryggeri on Gotland here in Sweden. I think that's probably the last one that I had. But yeah, the aroma of this one I think is pretty damn nice, so it gets a thumbs up from me. Yeah, I like that. So where do we start with this one? This beer gives you everything you want. It actually smells it's quite a bready triple, I would say that. You're getting a nice little bit of the kind of sugary qualities out of it. It has got a little bit of hoppy character, and it's got all the oily fruitiness as well. Quite often what I find is that when you get Belgian style beers or even German style beers that are brewed in the Nordic countries, they're often really good in terms of their flavour profile, but they just feel that little bit cleaner because of the water and things, I always found. But yeah, aroma, this is definitely, just from the aroma, this is one of the more bready triples that I've come across, I think, so far. But let's break the aroma down and actually describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. So yeah, backbone of this beer. The backbone of this beer, you get a lovely little bit of that kind of fresh, white bready bread crust in there. On top of that, there's some Jacob's cream cracker. Definitely. There's a little touch of woodiness in this beer as well. Yeah, definitely a little bit of that woodiness. So yeah, fresh white bread, Jacob's cream cracker, a little bit of woodiness, and then above that you start to get all this kind of doughy, yeasty, bready character in there. So there is definitely some thicker white bread in there, and it does have that kind of banana bready type quality to it. There's maybe a little touch of like a kind of clovey element to this beer as well. But yeah, banana bread, a little bit of clove. And then, yeah, there's a few other things above that as well. So there is a bit of a kind of straight up fresh white bread to this one, and you can smell the wheat just thickening it out. So yeah, the wheat, I'm getting there's a teeny little bit of wheaty bitiness in the back of the nose for this beer, which is quite interesting. I was just paying attention to that for a second and thinking about it. So yeah, there is a teeny little bit of that wheaty bitiness in the back of the nose there. But as I say, smooth, thicker white bread on top of that. And then you start to get the brown sugary notes out of this one. This is quite interesting because for me, there's quite a little bit of honey to it, but at the same time I'm getting little bits of like Werther's Original butter candy butterscotch, so I like that. Yeah, so Werther's Original butter candy butterscotchy notes out of this one, which I do really like. On top of that, yeah, you've got little bits of McVitie's digestive biscuity character as well. Yeah, aroma wise, as I say, this one it smells as if it's going to be really quite bready, but you've got quite a lot of kind of brown sugar to this one as well, which I do quite like. Yeah, I do get a little bit of a kind of there's a lot of fruity character to this one too, but we'll come to that in a minute. On the hoppy side of things, there's a little bit of a kind of earthiness in there. So yeah, you do get a nice little bit of smooth earthiness. As you go a little bit further forward, there's a little touch of herbal character coming out of this one. Yeah, it's a little bit of earthiness, a little bit of herbal character, and further forward on the nose, there's some nice floral aromaticity. There's also quite a bright grassiness to this one, and I would describe the green component in this beer as being quite wet. But you know, when it's Hallertau, sorry, it's not, it's Tettnanger and Sats hops that are in this one. So yeah, it kind of makes sense because the German noble hops always have this quite bright character to them, whereas the Czech noble hops are a bit spicier. And you can get a bit of both of that. You can smell a little touch of spice to the floral aromaticity, but the grassiness is quite wet and quite bright for sure. But when it comes to the fruity side of this beer, then, as I said, there's a little bit of banana bready sort of thing. But for me, it gives you the things that are typical of this style. You know, you always expect a little bit of kind of oily pear and a bit of sultana. You're definitely getting that in this one. There's maybe a little bit of apricot in there, and there's just a wee touch. I think there's maybe like a wee touch of kind of. There's a very slight gooseberry to this one for me as well. So yeah, sultanas, pear, bit of apricot. Yeah, a little bit of gooseberry and maybe just a wee tiny bit of fresh apple on the front of the nose. But aroma wise, like I say, this is quite an interesting one. I do like how this goes together. I think this is going to be quite bready, but at the same time, really quite oily and brown sugary. So yeah, this I think will be quite an interesting beer. So I think we've said everything we need to about the aroma for this one, and that we should jump in and try it. So let me just get this right then. So this one is the Katkeruuden Malja, a triple at 9% ABV from Iso-Kallan Panimo in Kuopio in Savo over in Finland. Let's get stuck into this one. Slanju, skål, cheers, kipis, and kitos. Oh yeah, it is. First impression of this beer. This is one of these, it's a really big, oily triple, this one. Absolutely, big, oily triple. But in the aftertaste, you do get the kind of bigger, bready, more yeasty characteristics of this beer coming out. So yeah, it's kind of as I thought, it is kind of as I thought this one was going to be. And that's something that's really kind of amazed me a little bit as I've gone through reviewing beers. Like, it amazes me now how often I can pick up from the aroma what the beer is actually going to be like. Because this is one, it's not always, of course, but you know, quite often you can make a good guess as to what the beer is going to be like from the aroma once you've done so many beers. But yeah, this is good. So yeah, the way this beer goes together, I think, is really quite nice. Um, yeah, where do we start with this one then? We'll do as we always do. So, in terms of the triple, this one actually for me, as I said, quite oily, good bit of breadiness, but you have got a fair wee bit of hoppy character in this one as well, which I do like. So, yeah, middle third of your palate then, you've got a nice little bit of kind of bread, got a nice little bit of bread crusty backbone to the beer, which I do quite like. So yeah, nice kind of bread crusty backbone in there. Toward the front of that middle third of your palate, there's a little touch of woodiness coming out of the beer. So yeah, a little bit of bread crust, a little bit of woodiness in there, and then above all of that, you've got the kind of Jacob's cream crackery type qualities to it as well. And those sit there into the aftertaste. You do get a little bit more dryness out of this beer the further into the aftertaste that you go. Above that, you actually get, I'm getting a bit of a layer of a kind of wholemeal brown bread. So yeah, there's a nice wholemeal brown bready character to this one. And then above that, you start to get the white bready notes out of it, and that's probably from a mixture of the barley malt, and if there's a bit of wheat in this too, you can feel that there's a slightly denser wheaty quality in there. But toward the back of that middle third of your palate, you do get a little bit of the more kind of, well, maybe not in the back. You get a little bit of spiciness actually toward the back of that bready layer in the middle third of your palate. Like, it has got a little bit of an almost kind of peppery sort of thing to it, but there's a wee bit of cloviness there. But the white bread has sort of, it feels like it has kind of banana flavours embedded in it as well. So that's quite interesting. But above the wheaty layer, of course, you have the above the wheaty layer, you've got the kind of brown sugary notes coming out of this beer, which is quite interesting. So I think that's everything we need to say about the different layers within the middle third of your palate. So let's just focus on the brown sugary flavours. So the brown sugary notes that you get in this one are quite interesting. So again, it's quite layered. It feels like you've got a layer of sort of honey underneath. Then you've got this more oily layer of like butter candy, butterscotch, and in the dead centre of your palate, there's a little bit of a straight up sweet caramel. So you've got that little centre in the middle of your palate where it's the straight up sweet caramel, that's the booziness. You've got the butterscotch underneath, and then you've got the more kind of light honey type quality. But there's also a wee bit of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity note coming out of this beer too. So yeah, I think that covers really everything we need to say about the middle. Yeah, I think that covers everything we need to say about the middle third of your palate in this beer. So yeah, let's go on to the back third of your palate then. And we'll look at the border region between middle and then back third of your palate. So you get a little bit of a kind of bready build up in there. Nice little bit of white bready build up. The backbone of that back third of your palate is of course the bread crust, and it's a bit more dry because remember, more bitter and dry flavours come out further back on the palate. So yeah, sweeter flavours come out further forward. Then you've got the crackery layer, which is again a bit drier. You've got a wholemeal bready layer, which is a bit lighter and a bit more airy, which is nice. And then above that, you've got a kind of taller, more airy again, white bready note coming out of the beer. Above that, you have a bit of a wheaty. You've got a little bit of that kind of wheaty, bitey character as well. And above all of that, you have the the more yeasty characteristics coming out of the beer. And the yeasty side of this beer is quite interesting for me. It's got more of a it's got more of a kind of like very light and just smooth farmhousey white bread. There's a little bit of woodiness and stuff to it, maybe a wee tiny bit of honeycomb as well. I often get honeycomb in the back third of the palate for some reason, but yeah, that's it. But definitely back third of your palate, you can feel the flavour is definitely taller, and then as you come further forward into the middle third of your palate, it just condenses down and squashes together that wee bit more. So yeah. So yeah, I think that's, yeah, the malty and yeasty side of this beer is quite nice. But like I say, this one is actually, it's interesting. You know, I was talking, it's just coming to my head. This beer has Pilsner malt in it, and that makes sense actually when you think about the flavour, because like I was saying, probably in that, at the back, that when I was talking about the white bready layer, the kind of spice, it is more just that kind of dryness from the Pilsner malt. That's probably what it is, rather than being a little bit kind of peppery. So yeah, definitely in that border region between middle and back third of your palate, you do get that, and you can feel the Pilsner malt crispness in there for sure. So in terms of the in terms of the back corners of the palate, then you've got that nice little bit of earthiness. And there we'll talk about the hoppy character now. So you've got a nice little bit of earthiness there. As you move further forward, you've got a little bit of a herbal character, and as you push toward the front corners of your palate, you've got a little bit more of a kind of floral, aromatic sort of thing coming out of this one. So yeah, the way that the beer goes together in that sense is quite nice. You can feel that little bit of spicy floral aromatic character from the sats, but then round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit wetter and a little bit more grassy. There's a touch of zestiness to it, and that's going to be your Tettnanger hop in this one that's going to do that, the German noble hop. So yeah, Tettnanger of course comes from the Baden-Württemberg region. Hallertau is Bavaria. So yeah, I think that covers everything we need to say about the green component. You know, triples are not the most hop forward of styles, but they should still have a little bit of green character to them to make it come out. But yeah, let's focus on the front third of your palate then, and the fruity side of the beer. So the border region, the border region between front third and middle third of your palate. I would say, yeah, white bready build up again. The base of that front third of your palate's a little bit bread crusty and also a little bit kind of, it is also a little bit grainy as well. You can feel there's a little bit of a kind of, you've got a little bit of the bread crust and a little bit of the smooth white bread, but then above that you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just kind of roll their way out of the beer. So at the back of that front third of your palate, it's definitely got, you know, the sultana notes to it, that dry kind of white green grapey quality. Absolutely getting some of that. As you move further forward, there's maybe a very slight sort of datey quality to this one, but I get a lot of oily pear. In the middle of the palate, there's a very slight touch of like a dried apricot. Then as you move into the front half of that front third of your palate, it's a little bit more, it's got a little bit of a more kind of, I would say, gooseberry like note to it, and there's maybe just a wee tiny touch of a very slight lime on the very front tip of your tongue, but the fruits in this one are really nice and just really smooth and oily. Yeah. So yeah, the way this beer goes together in that sense is really quite nice, and it gets a big thumbs up from me. Um, yeah, I like this. I really do like this. On the yeah, on I think that covers everything in terms of the actual flavour of the beer. But the further into the aftertaste you go with this one, you get a bit of the Pilsner malt spice coming out, you get a bit of the green component, you do get a lot of the breadiness as well. This is, like I say, this is definitely one of the more bready triples that I've had. It's not the sweetest either, actually. The brown sugars, the sugars in this one, um, sit back a little bit. I think it could maybe do with just a little touch more sweetness to it. But yeah, it's interesting how it goes together. I think we can round off this review with a wee look at the mouthfeel. So yeah, in fairness as well, I will say that this beer does get a wee bit sweeter the more that you drink of it. But um, in terms of the mouthfeel, I'd say that this beer is kind of pushing toward top end of mid-bodied. The carbonation, it does have a little prickle to it, but overall it's quite smooth. This beer is a little bit more oily and kind of clean in a sense. I think it's probably the finished water that's doing that. It does feel very clean. The malt base, as we said, has a bit of graininess and a bit of dryness to it, but you have got a lot of breadiness in there, a bit of smoothness, and a wee bit of crispness from the Pilsner malt. So you have that. IBU wise, I think this is probably about 25-ish IBUs. You know, the triple, of course, is not the most hop forward of beer style. So yeah, I think about 25-ish IBUs with this one. And as we said earlier, the fruity character in this one is quite nice and oily, which is something that you would expect of this style, definitely. But yeah, it's a solid triple, this one. As I say, one of the more bready ones that I've come across, could potentially do with just a little bit more sweetness to it, if it makes sense, because the brown sugars in this one, when I think about it, the sugars in this one are a little bit more, they're a little bit more kind of dry and oily in a sense. They could just do with being that little touch brighter. But other than that, I think it's a nice solid triple, this one. It drinks very nicely. It gives you everything you would want from the style. You can't knock it. You really can't knock it, this one. So solid triple, this one for me. And it's not the most popular of beer styles either, and that was the reason that this one caught my eye, actually. So I'll need to have a look and see what else this brewery does, and see what else I should check out from them, actually, because they seem to do a whole variety of different things. But yeah, I think we can leave it there. So this one was the Katkeruuden Malja, a triple at 9% ABV from Iso-Kallan Panimo in Kuopio in Savo in Finland. So yeah, a big thank you again to Riku for making this review possible. I did enjoy this one. But yeah, thank you again to you guys for watching the video as well. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Iso-Kallan Panimo too, and we will see about reviewing more from these guys at some point in the near future. We'll see if we can get another one of them through the next Riku box. But until then, Slange, Skull, cheers, keepies, and Ketos. Make sure to check out Iso-Kallan Panimo and their social media. Check out my stuff as well. Slange, Skull, cheers. See you guys very soon.